Hello and welcome to my detailed Necro Army build guide made for 3.18 Sentinel League. This video has two major parts, and yes, you can skip to the second one using the timestamps in the description and timeline of this video. So other than the build guide, this video is also effectively a final part 3 of my Necro Army leveling guide, a walkthrough basically. Some important pointers are coming up and you might need to retrace your steps a tiny bit, as I already said. Video chapters, like I mentioned, are always there for you in the description and timeline of the video, and in case you're one of those attention span poor people, just go take a look at the build talent tree screenshot and my basic POB linked in the description. You're welcome, but don't complain that something doesn't make sense anymore, because I will be providing context in this video. For everyone else, let's quickly wrap up the leveling elements before we jump into the actual recap of the full build. I've balanced the power of minions when taking skill tree nodes and invested very heavily up front in elemental resistances from rare gear items mostly, and crafting bench in my hideout, as well as boosting my life pool as much as I could. As a very quick preview and an example, my resistances have been fully maxed out by the time I've entered something like Act 6 or 7 this time around in 3.18, and by the time I was in Act 10, I had close to 4,300 points of life. Fully maxed out resistances and over 50% block chance for both spells and physical attacks. And I'm a casual. I'm using no uniques, absolutely no uniques, completely was not trading with anyone. It was basically a solo self-found, very casual friendly character. I hope I have your attention now. Let's keep going then. So you would do Labyrinth number 2, the one that opens up at level 55. Between levels 56, it's always good to out-level it a tiny bit in my experience, especially if you're a beginner. And level 62, deciding between the Commander of Darkness point and Bone Barrier point. If you're struggling with survivability for some reason, any reason, bad gear, whatever, my gear is horrible and I was fine, but if you're struggling, Bone Barrier is the one that you would go with. But I took Commander of Darkness for a lot more damage and massive boost to resistances, as my left click auto cast Still Skin ability, more about gems in the build section of the video, and massive life pool did the job of protecting me totally fine without taking Bone Barrier just yet. I would save Bone Barrier for your Labyrinth number 3 run, which will happen at level 68. As you keep leveling and following my numbered skill tree points in the included build screenshot, it has changed once again. If you have taken a look at part 1 and 2, please download number 3 and see that it has changed. So as you're doing that, if you didn't rush like me, I suppose you would be around level 63 to 64 as you start Act 8 and re-enter City of Sun. You will go through sewers again, absolutely humiliate Deirdre in the sewers, then go on the quest lines to find the moon and the sun orbs, and then go to the broken bridge when your minions will eat Solaris and Lunaris for breakfast with absolutely zero problems, unless you are just a dummy and you're just standing there in their beams and doing nothing. So yes, you have to move, my friend, but you will still be fully protected. You should be totally fine. I was level 68 when I entered Blood Aqueduct and High Gate. Again, that was the start of Act 9. Nothing massively memorable there either. It's all very linear, so you should just follow the quest line. You already know how it's done, and your priorities remain to be taking life boosting nodes, you know, life boosting points, and boosting minion damage where you can. You could alternate between the two, but generally these are your priorities. That's your Northern Star. It's very simple, and maxed out elemental resistances are obviously probably clear by now. I don't have to repeat myself. At level 72, start of Act 10, you do secondary objectives first, and then you kill Kitava. So around this time I took a very particular notable key point in the passive skill tree that I'm making a call out to, which is called Glancing Blows. Glancing Blows doubles your chance to block attack damage and spell attacks, which is fantastic, right? But at the same time, it starts letting through some of that damage. So, you know, it's not fully mitigating the damage, but I think that your resistances and your physical mitigation from the auras are still going to protect you well enough. And I think that glancing blows at this stage, actually, for me, I felt like it provided a massive increase to my survivability. You might want to play with that thing and see how it goes. There are always orbs of regret, and you can always undo that skill point, but I really think that you should try and take glancing blows, especially if you haven't tried it before. You will get to Kitava around level 73, and you will kill him with no issues, zero issues. Congrats! You've reached the Path of Exile end game, rebooted for 3.17 Siege of the Atlas League, and in 3.18 we didn't see much of a difference in Sentinel, obviously, so you will just follow now the new quest line in case you don't know what to do further. Don't panic, there will be a quest line taking you through the end game, and your central kind of friend, everything is going to be sort of centered around Commander Kirek from now on, and he will tell you what to do, and you will just do the Atlas mapping. So you will explore the map of the mysterious Atlas, a new tree of points, so to speak, for you to fill out and to go through. You will figure it out. This is not an end game guide, and I never posed to be an expert who killed all the bosses and so on. I have not. I am a casual player, and you can see it metaphorically as a friendly taxi driver who drove you to the airport. Now you're on your own, my man and my lady. Okay, now on to build guide, summary of key points and overview that should give you a snapshot of what to aim for and how to build your character. Obviously, other than our very detailed 3-part leveling guide that we've just been through. As far as the gear is concerned, just take rares. Yellow rares, prioritizing, like I already said, life pool, strength, intellect, and minion stats wherever they come your way. I've used 0 uniques in this leveling process of 3.18 Sentinel League, and it felt almost better than my previous runs in 3.17 with a lot of uniques. Speaking of sentinels, just focus on using stalker sentinels. My success kind of mostly with majority of kind of earned good gear and just fun of the gameplay and everything was with sentinels, especially the rare ones, the ones that actually tag a lot of enemies rather than disappear immediately after you summon them. I had the least amount of fun and least amount of success with Pandemonium sentinels, and sort of reasonably kind of had a few kind of success points there and a bit of fun with Apex Sentinels that I used on bosses only. As I already mentioned, also for yellow rare gear, for rings I have prioritized 2 stone rings that give you 2 different resistances. You just need to balance them out and see which ones you need. Plus, I was also using the crafting bench in my hideout. Skills tree, look, easiest it would be to open the screenshot with numbered path of notables that I've uploaded and put a link into the description of this video, and follow if you're a beginner and if you don't know any better. And if you know better, then what are you doing here? There is also path of building, if you know what it is. If you don't, it's never too late to learn, and you don't need to be an expert to use it, this free tool. It's used on PC, of course, and I used it in a rudimentary form. I always use it there. I do not know what every single intricate checkbox there means. That's why maybe my damage shows us off and whatnot. But it will tell you a lot more than a screenshot does, if you have access to the tool, obviously, if you're not playing on a console. Now, speaking of gear and gems, let's take a closer look at those. For the wand, I'm using nothing to write home about. I use something that generically increases my spell damage, even though I don't rely much on this as a damage output. I use my wand as a stat stick. It's basically a stat stick. If you see better stats that would give you more life, minion damage, something like that, go for it. Don't even think about it. So as far as the gems here are concerned, I use Steel Skin, which is bound to my just left click. It just activates as I start walking right now because I don't have Bone Barrier skill just yet. And yeah, that removes any of the blood, corrupted blood effects, and protects me with an extra shield. I am also running Tempest Shield buff. Tempest Shield buff deals some lightning damage, reflected lightning damage, which I'm not relying on. In this particular case, I'm simply using it that for the massive boost to the chance to block incoming spell damage. That is a massive survivability layer, whichever way you put it, for very little reservation cost, especially with optimization skill points that we've put in. And here we have Flesh Offering. Flesh Offering quite obviously is a wonderful skill that you get pretty early on. We talked about it in earlier guide parts of leveling for this build. It just boosts movement speed, attack speed of your minions, makes them much stronger. So what's wrong with that? Absolutely nothing. Here I have just generic Pandemonium Fingers Trapper Mitts, which are, as you can see, all about elemental resistances, and they're boosting life quite significantly, as well as my mana. So the stats on these gloves are actually quite fantastic, I would say, by my standards. I have here Carrion Golem. Only one Carrion Golem. I like how Carrion Golems play. I like that they increase maximum life for the minions, and they deal more damage per non-golem minion near them. And I have a lot of minions running around, so they're doing up to 50% more damage. So that's fantastic, right? Plus they're giving additional physical damage to non-golem minions. It's a very, very good golem. I recommend it. I am using faster attack support to support my Carrion Golem. There probably are better support gems here potential. You could use multi-strike support, for example, if you had a red socket here, but I am using fast attack support. It works fine. And I'm also using minion speed, because I just find minion speed as one of the best gems that have almost no negative side effects, because if you say you use minion damage support reduces life pool of the minions. This one just increases speed all around. It's a very, very good thing. All right, so my head is right now also not the best item. I probably will replace it very soon. As you can see, the stats are not fantastic, but it gives me a little bit of increase of elemental resistances, and it also was just very convenient when I picked it up. Definitely due for replacement, and it just had 4 linked sockets, so why not, right? Over here I have my Summon Raging Spirit, which is my main spell / minion, the one that I'm using the most. It's bound to my key number 1, and I'm also using Unleash Support, as you have seen. Unleash Support is actually more of a convenience button. It is something that can be replaced with something more directly affecting damage of my Raging Spirits, but I used it purely for convenience so far. Yes, subject to further optimization now. It is essentially allowing you to spit out many of those Raging Spirits in one go. That is the best part of Unleash Support. So rather than standing there clicking for such a long time to get all 20 of them out, Unleash allows you to flood the area with these Raging Spirits much, much, much faster. Here I'm using Phantasm Support. It's an arguable support minion. Not many people use it without emphasizing the build around them. I always use Phantasms because I like the flooded field with Phantasms. They are a ranged minion as well, and yeah, I do think that they contribute to my damage substantially, at least it looks that way. And minion damage support I'm using here because a life pool of Raging Spirits and of Phantasms that are temporary summons doesn't matter. That's why minion damage support works absolutely fine here. I actually said to you that I'm not using any uniques. I forgot. I didn't lie deliberately. I forgot, and I could have done fine without it, but I'm using one super cheap, something that's very common, drops all the time, See the Breath Power Amulet, which is a very nice, very kind of early game type of summoner amulet, which evidently gives extra life, extra movement speed, additional damage, and reduces mana cost of minion skills. It's actually quite nice amulet, but again, I probably can replace it with something better right now at this stage. My rings, as I said, are 2 stone rings, both of them. No, one of them I must have replaced, the second one doesn't matter. This one has a lot of stats, good stats as you can see, and I just talked you through my logic in terms of picking for the stats, and this one is not a 2-stone ring, but the logic here applies the same. I'm prioritizing maximum life and elemental resistances. Now in this 5 link socket, 6 socket is not linked simply because this is basically a solo self-found play. I have not bought something that has 6 link socket. If you do, good for you. I don't. In this one I am having Raise Spectre and Raise Zombie in one cluster. Yep, I'm cheap like that. You probably, when you start optimizing, sub-optimizing, you will separate them into 2 separate probably areas. Your specters are going to be separate from zombies, but here I thought, you know what, cheap and cheerful leveling, very nice, works very nice. all of these other supports are working for both Spectre and the Zombie, and they both are using multi-strike support, quite nice, very very good obviously. Minion damage support, yes, it reduces maximum life of those two, of zombies and specters as well, but I'm using it anyway. And speed, I love speed, I just mentioned it to you. I'm also using here a Lonely Frost Bomb. Watch my video on my channel about if your bosses are not dying, why Frost Bomb is a lifesaver. Just watch it, I don't want to repeat it, that's why I have it in my build. Here in the boots, unoptimized, obviously some empty sockets. I'm using Determination Aura for armor, and I'm using Defiance Banner for more armor. So I am boosting physical defenses here as well. In my shield, it's just a basic shield. I found it really early on, subject to also be replaced, but so far I haven't found anything particularly better, not that I have looked very closely. It gives plus 12, decent, to all elemental resistances, especially if you consider that I found it around level like 30 or 35 or something. And also I added some crafted maximum life. I have Flame Dash, the best travel skill in the whole game, with Second Wind support, which gives Flame Dash a 4th charge, and Arcane Surge, meh. Could be something else completely different, like Void Sphere to slow down enemies or something similar to that. But that is basically my whole setup of my very very basic. For Ascendancy, we go with Necromancer. Through with your lab number 1 at level 33, you would go for Mindless Aggression. Then, as I talked you through in the leveling part, you will decide whether or not you want to take Bone Barrier first if you're struggling with survivability, or go for more damage and elemental resistances by taking Command of Darkness, which is what I did. Funnily enough, I was having so much fun leveling that I got to level 73 and end game without doing the 3rd lab. How noobish of me, but obviously I could have done it, and I'll do it shortly. And I personally will probably take Bone Barrier, even though I'm not struggling with survivability. I just think it's a very very good skill. If you ever stick with this character long enough to do lab for the 4th time, then you would go for Unnatural Strength. In my opinion, that will give +2 level to all minion skill gems, which by that time is going to be a massive boost to damage. For Pantheon gods, as you can see at this stage, I'm going very simple for Soul of Relakesh as the minor god that reduces damage over time taken while moving, and moving while bleeding doesn't cause you to take any extra time, any extra damage. Alternatively, because our Steel Skin buff will remove bleeding anyway, so that is kind of pointless, right? And alternatively, you could probably switch to Aberath, and Aberath will reduce the amount of ignite on you, so you can kind of walk on fire ground without too much damage taken there. So that is a potential kind of logic here. For the major god, I stick with Soul of Lunaris because I'm always kind of ending up being surrounded by enemies, and this is decreasing a little bit, but decreasing the reduction for each enemy around you. I think that that's better than just sticking with Soul of Solaris or something that will do you physical damage reduction if there is only one enemy, so only in the boss situations. I'm not too scared of that. I'm more scared of crowds. And this is it, my friends. Time to wrap up our lengthy video. I tried to speak fast, but I didn't want to cut through kind of details that I wanted to include as far as leveling is concerned and as far as this snapshot of the build guide is concerned. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give me a like. YouTube is a very simple platform. Algorithm is very simple. If you spend a second and give me a like, it will show the video to more people. So that is obviously going to add to the cause and bring more people into our friendly little casual players club. Thanks again for tuning in. Hopefully I'll talk to you next time in a week or a couple of weeks time. I've been very very busy in real life, haven't had time to play much, but I certainly will, and I'll be bringing more builds to you, especially if you like this one. Talk to me in the comments down below. See you later. Bye for now.